Hey mamas, it's Kristen Noel, founder of the Intuitive Divorce, popping on here a day after class, and I'll get to that in a second, with my beautiful team member, Master Coach Joe Young. We have committed to popping in right after class, hot off the presses, with just sharing what's been unfolding in our group coaching class. Yesterday, the tech gremlins just kind of kept disrupting us, and we just had to go with it. And I was just laughing because Joe said, "Oh, your internet's so much better today." And I was like, "Yeah, all we did was reboot." To which, of course, she replied, "Sometimes that's what we all need, is to just reboot and to pause and to just kind of like recalibrate, give ourselves a break." So I want to dive into what we got into in class yesterday. First of all, Joe led this beautiful class where we were picking up on some more nervous system regulation. And in particular, we were diving into thoughts. Now, you might be thinking, I'm going through a divorce. I have a meeting with my attorney. I've got to figure out these filings and all this other stuff. I don't have time for this nervous system regulation. I don't have time to talk about my thoughts. It's like, shh, hold on a second. Deep breath, pause. I want you to just give yourself a moment to sit with us and listen to what we have to say. And we're going to dive into the importance of your thoughts. And most importantly, I want to tell you this isn't about more work. This is about creating less chaos. And at a time in your life when you're feeling so vulnerable and maybe just like broken apart and confused and not knowing what to do, full of anxiety and stress, maybe heartbreak, maybe rage, it's not usually a time that's synonymous with feeling empowered. But when you can get control of your thoughts, it's a game changer. I'm going to toss this over to Joe so that we can start just giving you a couple of things to think about that are going to feed you, not things that are going to get you stuck in your head and in this negative loop that has you paralyzed and has you afraid.
Yeah, beautiful intro. Thank you for that. Yeah, we titled this class, Your Thoughts Create Your Reality. And that is such a big statement. And the reason that this is so important is because that statement is true, first and foremost. Our thoughts create our experience of what is happening. And we had to talk about the difference there, right? Our thoughts obviously don't change some of the circumstances, but it changes how we experience the circumstances.
Mhm.
And so, really important because I'm not going to go into teaching, but over 97% of our thoughts are habitual. Either we think the same thought or we think the same theme of thought.
Tell them how many
Yeah.
times thoughts we have, because when you brought some of those statistics in yesterday, I was blown away. And then, of
Yeah.
course, not really blown away because I too get stuck in my head.
Exactly. So we think approximately 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, this is scientifically proven.
Mhm.
60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And 95 to 97% of those, roughly, are habitual. They're repetitive. They're either exactly the same or thematically the same. And, that's why we stay in a loop of, wow, I keep thinking the same thoughts. I keep feeling the same feelings. My feelings feed the thoughts. My thoughts feed the feelings. And so I love the statement that we think what we feel and we feel what we think, because it is literally a loop that keeps us on autopilot and stuck. And I know that that's something that everybody here can relate to. In
Divorce
fact,
or no
most humans
divorce,
can
right?
relate to. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And so it's really important to start paying attention and bring awareness to the thoughts that we're putting in and allowing in. And we talked about yesterday how that impacts everything from how we feel to the actions and behaviors that we take, which then impact our results and then feed more thoughts. So it literally can keep you in a
Right.
cycle of staying on the same loop over and over and over again.
You're so close to this and understand this so intricately. I mean, this is why you're going to hear us talk about this a lot, and we bring this in because it's so important to support and nurture yourself during this process so
Mm.
that you can show up. You know, we talk about this all the time. There's a lot that you're going to have to show up for. Tough conversations, big decisions, lots of emotions, right? So I'll venture to say that anyone that's here listening to this, anyone that's following the intuitive divorce, is likely a mama who really understands the value of self care and probably does try to do all the right things, right? And tries to juggle that and balance that and take herself into consideration. And then wonders, why am I still stuck here? I'm doing all the things. I'm green juicing. I'm going to yoga. I'm writing the affirmations. You know, the missing link is the body. And this is what Joe keeps bringing into the class for us because it's not just about thinking happy thoughts. Happy thoughts alone are not going to change your life.
Right.
But the self awareness piece, the self awareness of your body and finding the ways, understanding how I can connect all of that. And it's not about beating yourself up or judging yourself. It's just about saying, like we say in class all the time, great, gathering some intel about myself. I'm ready to shift this. And what was so powerful about Joe's class yesterday is aside from giving us like a real breakdown and demonstrating how this really works, you know, all of a sudden when you see this chart, you're like, whoa, okay, I get it. That really makes sense. That's me. You know, that's me. I can relate to that. And then the beauty of this is what now? And we workshopped one mama in particular that has a big move coming up within the next day or so. And we really helped her get out of her head, get out of her thought loop that she was stuck in. And maybe you want to speak to that more and like break that down.
Yeah. So I want to back up 1 second and talk about the body piece because it is the game changer here. You know, if you think about the statistic that I gave you earlier, around 95 to 97% of our thoughts are repetitive and on autopilot. We have to change what that autopilot looks like. And so, yeah, it's great to think new thoughts, but how do I actually rewire what becomes automatic? And we do that by changing one thought at a time and making it safe. So we talked about that a lot yesterday. What does it mean to actually make it safe? If I want to think something different, it's going to feel unsafe at first.
Let's just dive into that nugget for a second because it sounds like I want peace. I want calm. I want abundance. I want financial security. I want these things. And yet there's something that like there's a synapse that all of a sudden I'm not getting those things. I'm saying I want them, but I'm not getting those things.
Yeah. Because it's not familiar to your body. Your
Mhm.
body doesn't feel safe with that. So we make these big statements. I mean, how many of us set goals for ourselves and find ourselves a month later going, oh, I'm right where I was before? Because we do have to start to implement a safety in our body. And I say all the time, change only happens at the speed of safety. Your body is going to fight you. Your nervous system is going to fight anything that feels unfamiliar. All it cares about is familiarity. So when you bring in even a new thought process, it feels a little like, yeah, who am I kidding? Right. And
Mhm.
it's like, no, this is what I now am going to choose to focus on and to start to bring into what feels familiar so that we're giving ourselves new evidence of how safe it is.
Mhm.
So I was saying yesterday some examples of, you know, if you're feeling sad, it's because you're thinking sad thoughts. If you're feeling frustrated and insecure, it's because you're thinking insecure thoughts. And because those are the things that feel familiar for a lot of us, our body's going, yeah, this is the familiar. Well, then we start to bring in a different thing, which is, oh, wait a minute, I want to feel courageous. The body goes, whoa, well, that's not something we're really
We don't do
familiar
that.
with.
We don't do
Right.
that.
And I
Yeah.
was talking about calm yesterday because
Mhm.
that was a particular example that someone brought up. And I said, your nervous system's going, we don't do calm. Are you kidding me? No, look at all the chaos going on in your life. Look at all the, right. It starts to feed all those thoughts.
Can I
And that's
interrupt you
where
for
the
1 second?
interrupt comes in. Yes.
Because I'm so excited about this. Because one other way I think we can demonstrate the word safety is that mothers are such fierce advocates for their children. And the women that we work with are so concerned about how they're going to get their children through this, how they're going to get them through this experience, how they're going to feel safe. So they will go, up, down, all around, do back bends to make it safe for their children to express their feelings and their emotions. And we do a lot of work about this, how to talk to your kids, how to get them through it, how to make it safe for them to share how they're feeling. Exactly what we need to start doing for ourselves.
Mhm.
It's another way of saying like, oh, yes, yes, yes. You can do this for your kids. You can do it for all the people in your life that you love. What about just reserving a little ounce of that for yourself? Because that's what safety is, allowing yourself to think new thoughts, to think the thoughts you want into reality.
Yes. And I gave the example yesterday, and we kind of had a collective exhale around it can be as simple as going, okay, body, it's safe to feel calm, body, and to really breathe that in and watch what happens. And just to continue to have a conversation and a relationship with your nervous system, which is feeding all of your thoughts. I love where psychology has gone with all this because we've always understood that there's a mind body connection, but I think we got it backwards. It's really the body mind connection because our body is what is feeding our thoughts. It's not the other way around. So we have to bring some safety with whatever it is that we want to feel. And I loved this yesterday to go back to what you asked earlier with this particular mama who is getting ready to take some big steps this week. And she was already going into automatic pilot about what it was going to mean and how she was going to respond. And we were like, okay, let's play with this, right? So if this is how you're feeling, what are you thinking? And she's like, went right into the familiar of what her pattern has been. And it was like, okay, what if it were safe to change that pattern? What if it were safe for you to have a different thought? Okay, so let's go to how do you want to feel? Well, I want to feel X, Y, and Z. All right, so in order to feel X, Y, and Z, what would you need to be thinking about this next step? And she immediately went into, oh, wait. So, okay, how do you make that thought safe in your body?
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you can be feeding and having communication with yourself about and really breathing into your heart and your body? And how are you staying calm with that thought? And then when you think about that, think about the rest of the cycle, which is what is then possible for you. And it was such a beautiful shift for her to go, wow, you're right. This has just been what has been familiar. I'm doing the same thing that I've always done in an effort to take care of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, but you're forgetting to put yourself in that equation when you're doing that.
It's this awareness of the story loop, right?
Yes.
What's the story? So we lovingly kept interrupting her. Wait, because so much of the story we get stuck in that plays on repeat. And by the way, we are very creative. We could write scripts for Netflix, right? We're very creative in our minds. The stories that we often get stuck in contain pieces and parts that are not ours to control. And yet we will stay committed to having fierce reactions and emotions to what ifs in scenarios that we don't control. And we had to kind of keep taking her back to that. So let's just dissect this. What is the story? Let's dissect it. What is mine to control? And what is mine to let go of? It's like spring cleaning your own brain, creating capacity in your own mind, just like getting rid of the stuff that's not yours to control. And the big one for her, she was just driving herself nuts trying to figure out The perfect scenario. First, it was to tell him that she was getting, that she wanted a divorce. Then it was, 2 weeks of being love bombed by him and begging that he didn't want her to do this. But she still was going ahead with filing, and she is having him served. And then she was beating herself up. Should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? And what if he reacts this way? And maybe what's this? She was trying to manipulate the stars, the moon, and the sun, not hers to control. And Joe just literally just kept peeling it back, peeling it back, peeling it back, and basically just got to the point where she said, "Did you already tell him that you wanted a divorce?" "Yes." "Okay. Guess what? His reaction is going to be his reaction. You don't control it, and you must allow him to have it." We get so caught up in trying to control something that's not ours. It's a complete waste of your life force.
Yeah, it's why I started this off with, it doesn't mean that you're going to change the circumstances of your life, although I have a caveat to that as well. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to change the circumstances, but you get to be in power of what the experience of it is for yourself, not for the other person.
Mhm.
It's never for us to control the experience of another person. And that's a big statement because, especially as moms, we so want to do that for our children. Anyhow, even if the circumstances don't change, your experiences of the circumstances, you have power over. And that's where our thoughts come in because if we stay in that habitual loop, we're just going to get more of the same. But if we can interrupt what is habitual, if we can interrupt the thought and start to make a different thought safe, then that's what becomes habitual over time. And that's why I say we can't control circumstances, although I will say the more and more that we root in these beautiful new thoughts, these new patterns, these new beliefs, we also start to resonate differently and we won't bring in the same challenges.
Mm-hmm. And I want to just add to that by making one distinction because every mama here is a super heart-centered, intuitive, loving, wise woman who wants to get this right.
Mm.
We're not saying show up in disrespect or show up. I don't even think it's possible. I don't think you could because you're here and you care and you're really trying to divorce differently. But when you take care of yourself, when you nurture and support yourself, and when you get grounded, and when you are paying attention to your nervous system, and you walk into a conversation in that energy, that is the most loving thing you could do. That is the most loving thing you can do. Your calmness is an invitation. What the other person chooses to do with it, if they choose to take the invitation, great. If they don't, that's on them. You don't control it. So I really just wanted to make that distinction because when we say show up and advocate for yourself, we're not saying dismiss other people. I don't even think it's possible for you. Like I said, you're these loving mamas really worrying about getting it right. But what's getting right is getting right with yourself. And this is something that we really, really advise you as you're going through this very difficult process to pay attention to and to nurture and to support yourself in a way that maybe you never have.
Yeah. And your thoughts is one of the ways that you can do that. Really being intentional about the things that you're thinking, whether it's about a scenario, whether it's about yourself. I mean, how often do we look in the mirror and have thoughts about ourselves that are not particularly positive, and we're just reinforcing all of that rather than going, wow, I can simply choose a different thought, right? Which will shift your experience. It will shift how you feel. They're that tied, 100% guaranteed. You think something different, you're going to change how you feel. And then you make that safe in the body so that that becomes part of the habitual thought.
It's a much more beautiful way to walk through life, right? And the interesting thing is that oftentimes when we put a mama who we're workshopping with on the spot and we'll just ask a simple question like, well, what is it that you want to feel? Or what is, it's a very hard question to answer. But the word calm comes up a lot. It's a word that comes up a lot. So I would really just ask you to pay attention to what's playing on repeat in your own mind, in your own private Idaho. And just be curious about what would I want to shift about this thinking. And as Joe so beautifully said, this isn't just about your divorce. This is about your whole life. Because the more that I have been diving into this work with Joe, the more I see it, there's so many opportunities in the rest of my life, in all the other buckets of my life, whether it's my work, whether it's my self-worth, whether it's my finances, whether it's my relationships. It's really exciting. It's just peeling another layer of your beautiful onion of healing and revealing and becoming. And we just wanted to pop in. We're super excited about this. We're super excited about how we have seen this work impact the mothers in our group, how they immediately just ground and exhale. And half the time now we're laughing. We actually can laugh at the absurdity of what we do to ourselves.
Yes. And these are women in the middle of navigating a divorce. And we asked them across the board yesterday at the end of the class. Every single one of them was like, I feel so much more powerful. I feel so much more in charge. I feel so much more. So by simply shifting a couple of things, and that is everything. And to your point, it's not just divorce, right? I gave my own example of where this was playing out in my own life, and I do this work all the time. So it's not about being perfect at it. It's simply about understanding where you are in the process and recovering from it quicker and quicker each time, and feeding the most empowered thoughts that you can into your system, because that's how you want to live. You want to live from that space.
And that's how you want to mother.
So that's how you want to mother. Yeah.
That's how you want to mother, and that's
How you want to be.
yeah, how you want to
Really.
be. So it's
So
super exciting.
thank you.
And it's why we are so excited to work with mamas who are juggling so much, who are so up in the fields, because this is not a conversation that you are having with your lawyer. This is not a conversation you're having with your financial advisor. This isn't their wheelhouse. And you know what? Your well-being, your nervous system, and everything that's attached to it is not something you want to save for later. Literally, we say this, we beat this drum day in, day out. How you show up is how you're going to get through this divorce, and it's going to impact the condition that you're going to be in on the other side of it. And you don't need to add any more suffering to your plate. This is a time to just say, hey, I'm going through a really, really difficult moment. But you know what? I'm going to lean in. I'm going to learn some new things about myself. I am ready, and I'm going to heal.
And you know what I love most, Kristen, about that, just to add to it, is that it's also how you step into your incredible future.
Yeah.
Yes, you have this to get through, and we help navigate that. But we're guiding to this incredible future that you so deserve for yourself. And that's what matters, so that we don't end up on that wheel of repetition.
Oh, yeah. Game changer.
Game changer.
So mamas, we hope we have sparked you today to just think a little differently. Actually, to feel a little differently, to allow yourself to feel and connect to your own nervous system and your own body differently. And we're going to leave you with that and a lot of fierce mama bear love, and just encourage you, if you haven't already, check us out at intuitivedivorce.com. Make sure you're on our newsletter list. Tons of stuff goes out every week. Tips, strategies, podcasts, you name it. We're writing books. We're creating membership sites. We've got an app. Joe's got incredible programs. Lean into supporting yourselves.
Yes.
And we're here.
Yes, that's the first step.
Yeah. Yep. So we're going to leave you with that little love today.
Thank you. Till next time.
Till next time. Till next week. If Zoom is participating.